All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down a manipulation tactic that is so subtle and yet so incredibly destructive, it can actually rewire your brain. We're talking about future faking.
I want you to just imagine this for a second. Someone looks you right in the eye, and they promise you the life you have always dreamed of. You know, the perfect home, the vacations, that feeling of complete and utter safety. You feel like you can finally breathe. But then, weeks turn into months, and that promise, it's always just around the corner. It's always later. And the moment you ask for any kind of certainty, the whole conversation gets twisted around, and somehow, you're the one who ends up apologizing. This isn't just a broken promise. It is a very deliberate, very lethal psychological strategy.
So, to really understand how this all works, we have to go back to the beginning, because it always starts with the perfect lie.
So let's talk about someone we'll call Maya. Now, from the outside, Maya is the picture of success. She's got a great career, she's confident, she's independent, but underneath all that, she's carrying this secret, deep-seated desire to finally be taken care of. It's a vulnerability she doesn't show to many people. And then, it happens. She meets someone who feels like, well, like her soulmate. They almost instantly mirror every single one of her deepest dreams, and within just a few weeks, they're promising her the entire world. It feels like something out of a movie.
And you know what's happening on a biological level? Her nervous system is registering all of this intense rush of promises and affection, which is really a tactic called love bombing, as the ultimate safe haven, the place she's been searching for her entire life. So naturally, all of her defenses just melt away.
And then, just like a switch flips, everything changes. That constant adoration, it turns into sharp, bewildering criticism. The warm, constant connection is suddenly replaced by these long, agonizing stretches of silence. The mask begins to slip, and Maya's left completely confused, desperately trying to do anything she can to get back that perfect partner she met at the beginning.
But here's the terrifying truth. The one thing she just can't see yet. The person she fell so hard for, that person never actually existed. It was an act, a performance that was designed for one single purpose, to get her hooked.
So this leads to the big question, right? Why can't someone as smart and successful as Maya just leave? Well, because this isn't a fight against logic. It's a fight against her own brain chemistry. We're basically entering a biological crime scene.
What's happening here is something called a trauma bond. And let's be crystal clear, this is not love. It is a profound biological addiction. The brain gets attached to the abuser not in spite of the pain, but because of that insane, unpredictable cycle of cruelty followed by these little breadcrumbs of kindness.
Now, what's fascinating is how this addiction is literally manufactured in the brain. Think of it like a four-part neurochemical cocktail. First, you've got dopamine, which creates that intense craving for the high of the good times. Then there's oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which literally makes you blind to all the red flags. Third, during the bad times, your system gets flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone, putting you in a state of constant panic. And finally, when they're kind again, your brain releases its own natural opioids. That feeling of relief is so intense, you mistake it for passionate, true love. It's a perfect trap.
And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the engine that drives it all. It's called intermittent reinforcement. Now, a partner who's always kind is wonderful, but from a behavioral standpoint, it's predictable. A partner who switches between intense affection and cruelty, that operates exactly like a casino slot machine. Your brain doesn't get addicted to the reward itself, it gets addicted to the possibility of hitting the jackpot. It is literally the most powerful way to create compulsive behavior.
Okay, so if the brain is hooked like that, how does a manipulator keep someone pulling that lever day after day? Well, they use a very specific tool. They take one of our most powerful human emotions and they weaponize it. They weaponize hope.
And this is future faking. It is a calculated tactic where a person makes these incredibly elaborate, sweeping promises about your shared future. You know, the marriage, the house, the business, with absolutely zero intention of ever making any of it happen. So this is the crucial part to understand. The promise of tomorrow is just currency. It's used to buy what the manipulator wants from you right now, today. Your compliance, your money, your time, your emotional energy, you're paying for it all with a future that was never on the table.
So how can you actually spot this? Well, look for these 4 huge red flags. Number 1, a massive gap between how intense the promise is and the complete lack of any practical details. Number 2, the goalposts are always moving. The future will happen, but only after you change or become more patient. 3, if you dare to question them, they hit back with anger, guilt, or shame.
And number 4, if you actually try to leave, they don't change their behavior. They just up the ante with an even bigger, more spectacular promise to reel you back in.
But future faking is rarely used alone. It's almost always paired with another tactic, one that's designed to completely destroy your ability to think clearly. It's all about engineering a state of psychological paralysis.
This is something called cognitive dissonance bombing. Now, this is not just sending a few mixed signals. This is a sustained, high-level barrage of messages that directly contradict each other. The whole point is to overload your brain, to create this thick mental fog where you become totally incapable of making a decision or taking action.
And it is so important to understand how this is different from gaslighting. Gaslighting attacks your memory of the past. It says, that thing you remember, it never happened. But cognitive dissonance bombing makes the present impossible to understand. It creates contradictions in real time, like saying, I love how independent you are 1 minute, and why do you never include me the next? So one attacks your memory, this one destroys your ability to assess reality as it's happening.
And the result of all this? It's a complete and total loss of trust in your own perception. You genuinely start to feel like you are going crazy because there are no rules to follow. The rules are constantly and deliberately being changed to keep you off balance, confused, and easy to control.
So, when your biology has been hijacked and your mind is stuck in this dense fog, how in the world do you break free? Okay, let's talk about the verdict here, and more importantly, the escape plan.
This really is the question that sits at the very heart of this whole struggle, isn't it? How do you escape a trap that feels like it has been wired directly into your own nervous system?
And this right here is the verdict. And I really need you to hear this. Your inability to just walk away from this relationship is not a sign that you are weak. I'm going to say that again. It is not a sign of weakness. You aren't fighting your own logic. You are fighting a very real, high-level neurochemical addiction. The pain you're feeling is proof of the manipulation. It is not a flaw in your character.
So what does the escape plan look like? It starts with one single, absolutely non-negotiable rule. No contact. You have to start treating this like a severe chemical addiction, because that's what it is. Every single text, every call, every email is a relapse that just resets that entire painful cycle in your brain. Step 2, you have to actively rebuild your own reality. Ground yourself in objective facts. Write things down. Talk to people you trust. Start to slowly trust your own perception again. And third, share this knowledge. Because the moment you can name these tactics, you start to disarm them. Not just for you, but for other people too.
Because in the end, the only real antidote is to stop trying to fix a person who was never actually broken. They were just performing. You have to stop trying to earn a future that was never real to begin with. The only way out is to break the cycle. Reclaim your present, right now, because a real future, that's built with action and hard work, not with beautiful, empty promises. Please share this with someone you know who might be fighting this exact battle in silence. Your story could be the lifeline they need.